everyone. Is my mic is on? First, I want to apologize for having a little cold. I have to say that I have just spent a month in fashion. Literally, the show started in New York like September 6th or September 7th, and I get back from overseas on the 7th of October. It's been one long month, and I've had the great pleasure of having this with me all along, and there's nobody that I'd like to talk to more right now than Donna Karan. So
thank you.
I'm just going to give you a little bit of background. I'm sure so many of you already know it, but for formality's sake, let me start. Donna Karan was born in Queens and raised on Long Island, New York. She attended Parsons School of Design before beginning her career with an internship at Calvin Klein, where she rose to head designer in 1974 at age 25. She and her husband, Stephen Weiss, founded Donna Karan International, launching the Donna Karan New York collection in 1985, DKNY in 1989, and then a beauty line in 1992. Donna's philanthropic efforts are extensive. A longtime board member of the CFDA, she conceived its 7th on Sale benefit to raise funds for AIDS awareness and the Glazer AIDS awareness and education, and has co-chaired the New York Kids for Kids event for the Elizabeth Glazer Pediatric AIDS Foundation. Since 1993, she has co-chaired Super Saturday, an annual designer flea market / barbecue to benefit the Ovarian Cancer Research Fund. In 2007, Donna established Urban Zen, a luxury lifestyle brand and foundation that addresses wellness, education, and the preservation of culture through their artisan communities, most notably in Haiti, where she is now partnering with Parsons School of Design for vocational education. The CFDA has honored her 6 times. In 2004, she received its Lifetime Achievement Award. Donna has a daughter, Gabby Karan de Felice, 2 stepchildren, Corey and Lisa Weiss, and a total of 7 grandchildren. So before we get started, I wanted to share this excerpt from an article in the very first issue of ELLE in the United States in 1985. The article says, quote, "This first collection is just the beginning. She hopes to simplify even further as she goes along, plotting a strong new fashion course for the woman of sufficient sophistication to have outgrown her boring but safe dress for success suit and be ready for something new. There is no reason why dressing should be so complicated. A woman cannot deal with it, even if she has other things on her mind," Karan says. "Being in fashion shouldn't be a life's work," she adds with a grin. As you probably guessed, the she referenced in that piece is the one and only Donna Karan. Please join me and welcome Donna Karan to Hearst. Yay! I'm so glad that you're here. So, about that Elle magazine story. This is the very first edition of ELLE that was published in the United States as its standalone edition for the United States. And Donna, you were in our very, very first issue.
I love that.
And there you are. And I mean, wow, the shoulders are amazing. So I was just wondering, like that quote in the piece and looking at this now, I mean, what do you remember about that moment? I want to say we were the first to cover the collection. Was that true?
You were. And it was, I think I still look at those pictures today saying, if I ever have to describe who is Donna Karan, it says it all in, well, the 7 Easy Pieces. You nabbed it right there.
In the 7 Easy Pieces?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, that's, been such a cornerstone of your whole very long and very productive career. And as you said, it's a really basic idea that started there. Can you tell us about that idea, those 7 Easy Pieces?
Well, I realized that while I was designing Calvin Klein 2 and all of that, I really wanted to hone myself into a wardrobe that I felt most comfortable in. So I created these 7 Easy Pieces, and I said to my bosses at the time, I said, I have an idea for a collection, it's just 7 easy pieces, really simple, just for working women can go to work, go out, really kind of. I say, if you take a suitcase, and what do you put in that suitcase to travel? Now, you've just come back from a rather long travel. I'm very interested to know what was in your suitcase.
It was black, you talk about that in the book.
Right.
That one of the many things you gave to women was the idea that you could wear black during the day and during the work day.
Right.
So, yes.
Take it from day to night. And I had asked my bosses, can I do the 7 Easy Piece collection while continuing doing Donna Karan and Calvin Klein? And then they fired me. And I said, this is the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. How could you fire me? You know, I'm Anne Klein.
Anne Klein.
You know, after 10 years. And they said, but we know that you couldn't do anything small, Donna, if you tried. Mm-hmm. So I said, I just want to do 7 easy pieces. That's all I need. I just need 7 easy pieces. And they said, there's no 7 easy pieces for you. Maybe 7 easy companies, but not 7 easy pieces.
Well, and they were entirely
And sure
wrong.
enough, they were absolutely right. And
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't realized it at the time. But it was simple. And I didn't, as you said to me just now, you know, when you first launched Donna Karan, did you think it was going to be a success? And I keep on wondering, you know, are people going to really read this book? I'm not really sure. Is it going to be successful? I can't tell. So she says, you know, it's sort of the same as when you launched your company for the first time.
Mm-hmm. And it's, I mean, this is, you know, let's call this your what? Your 200th collection, your how many collections?
Right.
I'm sorry I didn't mention the book. I've been pointing out as if we've all been reading it along with me. It's my journey. It was published, the pub date was October 2nd, right? And it's, okay, I'm, you know what, I gotta get my fact checking better. But I will tell you, it's the best thing a book can be, which is that it's honest, it's revealing, it's genuinely moving, which is a very hard thing to do. I was telling Donna backstage, I mean, we're editors, this is what we do all the time. And what we're looking for always is that connection. And I really feel that you have succeeded magnificently in that. So, but you know, I'm hoping I can get you to tell us every little detail while we're here on stage. But you know, you brought up the 7 easy pieces.
How old are the people in here? No.
I
just want to know if they're above average. You know, I can speak it.
But very, very sophisticated consumers,
Okay.
obviously, of fashion and literature. So you brought up the 7 easy pieces, and I don't think that you know, everybody in the room understands how subversive that really was and what women were wearing before you really, you know, came up with the idea of what your company was going to be.
Well, what was happening is most women were wearing suits with ties and white shirts and looking like men, and usually gray flannel, because black was not in not in their language at that time. Or they were wearing little party dresses and going ladies who lunch. So there was nothing in between. And I remember thinking, well, I can't wear this and I can't wear that. What can I wear? Mm-hmm. And that's how it all started. And I said, you know, basically I start my life with a bodysuit, and it's because of all the years that I've done yoga. And it was prepare for yoga, prepare to go out at night, and just have your 7 little easy pieces, you know. The bodysuit, the wrap and tie skirt. Now, I never thought anybody would get the wrap and tie skirt at all. So I had to have a pair of black tights to go under it, because if the skirt blew open, we were really in trouble. But the tights were so dark, they looked like they were leggings. And then the tailor jacket, and that comes from my upbringing with my father. My father was a tailor, and I love making jackets. A suede jacket, which I adored because I love suede, so sexy and sort of comfortable. I'm wearing a suede. Yeah. Well, for me, if somebody would say to me, what is the most important thing you can own today? And I say it's a scarf. There is nothing more important than a scarf, because you can wrap yourself in it, you can hide yourself in it, you can go make it into a dress, you can wrap it into a pillow and go sleep on the plane. So you always have to have a scarf with you, no matter where you are.
Okay, scarf. Writing that down.
Molto important. I think there should be a whole magazine called The Scarf, and I guarantee you would never be boring.
Well, that'll be your next book, The Scarf. But you know, when I
do the book? Okay.
When I said that, you know, the work that you did early on in your career was subversive, what I mean is that it didn't just change the way women dressed. It changed the way women went out and presented themselves in the world, because what you were talking about, that they dressed like men. There was an idea in the culture at that point that we were supposed to actually be like men, appear to be like men, that we were junior men or little men, or that we were aspiring to be men. And you basically said, no, you know, that your ideas about women were, I mean, you had the advertising campaign where you pictured the first woman president.
Coming up, I was a little early, but you know.
Well, that's
soon to happen.
That's why you're a visionary, Donna. But I mean, were you aware of that when you were you know, designing your collection early on, that, you know, I'm going to actually change the language about how women present themselves as confident?
I felt there was a definite need in the marketplace, I didn't realize how successful it would be. You know, as I say, I'm not sure my book is going to be successful, but I hope it's as successful as 7 Easy Pieces. That would be really good. But I knew that what happened was my daughter was starting to wear all my clothes, and all her friends were wearing my clothes. And I said, hey, wait a second, guys, you're all in my closet, and this is not fun. This is for me and my friends, and you're a little too young for that, a la DKNY.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I needed a pair of jeans. I couldn't find a pair of jeans. I couldn't find a pair of jeans out there.
Well, and you know, I mean, and that was a huge success too. I was thinking about it when I was walking down here that, I mean, you are really one of, I guess, the founders of what we understand American fashion to be. I mean, in terms of like people being at the very, very top of, you know, the pyramid there, it's really, Donna Karan is American fashion. And I think, you know, we all owe you a great thanks for getting us out of those boxy suits. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and I mean, your collections have, for a long time, and this has been much written about, have often reflected sort of where you are in your life. That it's, as much as it's been a journey for the woman, it's also been your journey, you know, seeing that in the clothes and in the collections.
People keep asking me, how do you do another collection? Because I never feel that I finished my collection. And so just one more thing, you know, just one more thing. And then I travel around a lot, and I'm always mm-hmm. inspired from wherever I go. And I think as an artist, you're constantly being inspired. And that inspiration that you take in has to have a place in a plateau where to come out. Mm-hmm. And then that comes out in clothing. Mm-hmm.
So you know, I have a few actual written down questions. So I want to read to everybody part of Barbra Streisand's foreword in the book. Quote, "She is the most scattered, disorganized human being you will ever meet. Her attention is fleeting, and she's always changing her mind. She can't remember anything, including plans you've just made. Chaos is her middle name. So I'm constantly astonished by all she accomplishes. I'm now convinced that the dichotomy of her nature and all she creates is a sign of her genius." And I don't use that word lightly. So obviously it was clear that only a close friend could actually, you know, weave that narrative together and say that about you in your own book. And it made me wonder how you would say that your nature has figured into the, you know, this multifaceted body of work that you created. Would you say the same thing of yourself that your good friend Barbra Streisand said?
I think what I would say, when I'm on, and when I'm off, I'm off. Mm-hmm. And I get really centered, really clearly. I can walk into a room and go like that in 3 seconds flat. Mm-hmm. I can analyze something, I could fit something, and then all of a sudden, when everything is happening, I could deal with I can multitask, as mm-hmm. the chaos would say. You know, and I think for most of us women, we're multitasking. You know, we're being the mother, mm-hmm. you know, the guilty mother that I am, which is, I've been ever since Gabby was born. Guilty grandmother now. You have grandchildren, and now you're the guilty grandmother, not only the guilty mother. You know, why can't you come to the horse show, or why can't you do this, or, you know, I'm doing a play in school and you have to be there, kind of thing. So it never ends, mm-hmm. you know, the word guilt, especially when you're Jewish. But that kind of, well, I've got to get there, and I've got to get there, and I've got to do this, and I have to do that, and then of course your husband needs you, and this needs you, and that needs you, and everybody needs you, and the foundation needs you. You get a little chaotic. Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious.
But then when I'm in my zone, I'm doing my work, mm-hmm. and I could probably do it much quicker, much faster than mm-hmm. even astonishes me sometimes. That I'll walk into a room and I'll just, as an editor, mm-hmm. you know, exactly. be able to really spot it right on. That's right, that's right, that's right, that's right. Even in picking photographs or something like that. It says hello to me very quickly.
Well, and that's your gut working there. That's the 10,000 hours that, you know, Gladwell talked about. But you refer to a lot, you know, your company as a we, not as an I, and that we're doing this. But you're the leader of that. And, you know, there are a lot of things that you need to focus on to do that. In terms of what actually gives you the greatest satisfaction, you know, you get to a certain point as a creative person where, for you, you're also a manager, and you have to rally the troops, and you have to organize this very successful business so that, as you talked about, so that all of the employees will have jobs and food and that. But for where's the thing that which one of those things is really the thing that gives you, that most energizes you?
The thing that I love to do is I love fabricating. I love to touch it, feel it. I love to fit. I love the body. To me, it's like sculpture, and that's where I think fashion is for me, is sort of the body and the sculpture of the body. So I do like to do my own fittings. As much as other people fit, I'll come in and I'll go, no, or yes. It's like looking at the whole picture. And I think it's the things, not the show per se. To edit the show, I like doing that, bringing it down to the absolute minimum. We used to show, 110 pieces at a show. Now we're down to 39. This is pretty extraordinary, to put it all out there. But those are things that I really love to do. And then, of course, the most thing I love to do is be with my family. Yeah,
be with your family. But in terms of the work, I found a quote somewhere, forgive me, I don't know where it is, but that you say, well, I follow people into the fitting room, and they want to go right, and I tell them to go left, and they want to conceal, and I want to reveal. And the end of the quote is I've made people have a lot more sex. I guess, meaning that you dress them in such a way. So, just to your point that you like to do the fittings,
because women don't really understand what they can reveal and what they should conceal. And I think when I have them in the dressing room, generally speaking, I see them going to the left, and I kind of bear them over to the right, and usually, it'll be out of the corner of my eye. All of a sudden, I'll see somebody dressing, and I'm saying, not right for you. Well, let's take this. Or sometimes people say, oh, look, I've just bought your entire collection. And I go, that's not what you should be buying. Now, the sales girl wants to kill me. But I said, don't worry, we'll be fine. But let me show it to you another way. And I'll never forget this. I really transmitted a whole new collection onto this one woman. And I said, well, it's her husband. You're going to have a really good night tonight.
That's awesome.
Because she felt empowered. And she had never had that feeling of empowerment.
So what was it? If you can remember anecdotally that specific time, or generally.
Well, she was wearing white pants, and she wanted to cover everything up. Everything had to be covered. I said, okay, we're going to start from scratch. You're not that. Let's be able to look at your body. I'm always going to be able to give you something to cover you up, but first we're going to start with your body. Because if you start with your body first, you can always add to accent the positive and delete the negative. And that's how I really look at fashion.
And do you think that your client or most women start with the negative about themselves, that they tend to look at themselves as a mistake that has to get covered up, and how do you counteract
not me,
that?
I can't do that, I can't do this, I can't do that. And that's really where, as much as I love the internet, I think that one-on-one contact with the consumer is really vitally important. Because, what you see on the internet, and then you get it home, and you really do need that kind of encouragement to help you, unless you know what you're doing. Really, really know.
And how do you, how would you suggest to women to use fashion as a way to actually feel stronger? And actually, it's interesting that you say you push them a little bit more toward revealing, in a way. Than concealing. Which I'm sure for a lot of people is delightful, and they get really excited about that. So how do you, because of the internet, if you're talking to them over the internet, how do you push them toward thinking about themselves in a more positive way?
Well, I tell them, number one, you're never going to gain weight on your shoulders, so let's start there.
Okay.
And you could expose your shoulder and be fine. It's guaranteed. I have never seen a fat shoulder. Now, the rest of the body is another discussion. So we have to know what to cover up and what to reveal and conceal. And some people's, we're not all bad everywhere. Some places really good, so let's play up that place. And I also find that A-line skirts, I have this thing about A-line skirts, unless you're dressing sort of a young kind of hip person. I find an A-line skirt makes you look wider, not narrower. And I tend to tell people is to take the skirt and wear a pencil skirt, wear something, you know, cut narrower. Even though your hips are wider, when it gets down to the narrowness, you're going to feel a lot sexier.
Well, and also, I mean, you know, hips, that's a female thing. So, you know, that's not a bad thing to the female form, to sort of put it out there. So
Not at all.
Donna, I want to ask you about, you know, the introduction in your book. I mean, it was really quite powerful. And I mean, you know, I mean, as I said, a very moving part of the book. Why did you, I don't know if you want to just tell people about it, a little bit about it, but why you chose to open the book the way you did?
The entire book is basically about birth and death, and how we're all going to live it in one form or another. And if I could think of that one time that I had to live everything unanimously all at the same time, it was my husband had just passed away in June, and it was the day of a show. And it was the first show that I would do, and my husband wouldn't be there, and I was having an absolute coronary. I said, there's no way I can do it. It was my anniversary. It was the first show I was going to do, and I was up the night before, and I said, there's no way I was going to do the show. And then all of a sudden, about 5 o'clock in the morning, I had fallen asleep, and then all of a sudden, somebody woke me up, and they said, Donna, life will never be the same. And as she was waking me up, I was looking outside my window, and I saw the Twin Tower. And I said, oh my God, there I was feeling so all about me, that it was all about me, and now what is happening to our city, you know? And it was such a realization that we all go through such angst and really tough times. And what happened to the city is how we all came together. You know, we don't have the silliness that is happening today in politics and stuff like that. And we would all just realize that we have a real purpose. We have a relationship to one another. It doesn't matter where we came from or who we are, and looking at a much larger picture. And my daughter said to me, Mommy, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. And I said, no, we don't. And obviously, unfortunately, at that time, we couldn't. But I said, I've got to worry about all the people down in the design room, because the show was going to be that day, so I had to run down to my office. And then they blocked off the office, and I couldn't get there. And I said, well, where are the people going to sleep? And we had to put the people, you know, sleeping, because nobody could get out of town. And it was a chapter for me that there was a large question with everybody whether I was going to start the book there or not start the book there. And I really felt that really started the book as my journey. My journey was of birth and death. And then as the book goes on, it talks about all the people in my life that I lost, and at the days, usually the day of a fashion show. So it was just, I mean, I get chills when I even think about it now, that at so many of my fashion shows that I had, or people that I lost, happened the day of the fashion show. So there I was living again, birth and death, throughout the whole book.
Well, I mean, and, you know, thinking about that and the cycle, like, you know, your first show as a designer was at Anne Klein in 1974, and you described feelings that I think everyone wrestles with, no matter how successful, and that's self-doubt and worry, and that the work won't be good enough. And after that first show, everybody was like, you're a fantastic success. And we were just talking about that, about the book. I wonder, you know, do those feelings ever go away, or are those things that maybe kept you grounded?
That you never felt good enough?
Well, that you're filled with self-doubt before, you know, every presentation. I mean...
Oh. You know, you think after all these years, that's a piece of cake. I'm still so nervous. I mean, every single day I get up and I go, you know, right before a show, I realize the tension and I feel the tension of what it's all about. And I certainly did not feel that I would be acknowledged at the Anne Klein show, the first show that I did. You know, there I was, I had just given birth to my daughter, my boss dies, I am thrown into having taken over this company, and at the age of 25, it was It was a big, big pill to swallow, but I did, and it was enormously successful. And the paper said, "A star is born." Well, I don't ever consider myself a star, but I was very delighted to hear about the reviews, and they really loved the collection.
Well, I think you're going to have to accept that you're a star now, anyway. You know, you were talking about how your boss had just died, and that suddenly, I mean, you write this in the book about how your dream for yourself, which was to stay at home with your daughter and to raise her, that, you know, to do that, you know, more traditional kind of role for a lot of women, everything changed, and that your life totally went in a different direction, and you know, you've spent a lot of time between then and now really trying to still kind of deal with or reconcile, you know, that you didn't do that with Gabby, and that you had this whole other life, and you created this whole other life for her. So, you know, it was sort of what you were talking about the guilt also, you know, like not doing that. But do you feel settled about that? I mean, you feel pretty good about
No.
the path. No, no.
I think that's something innate. I'd like to, you know, get over it. Once, you know, my daughter says, "Oh, my mother was the best mother. She was always there." I go, on all the interviews, I think she does a magnificent job. But then again, you know, she knows and I hear, you know, my mother was never home and blah, blah, blah. And that was hard. And we were talking about it as you were leaving. You know, you were away from a month. I don't know how we do it, you know, because that child is sitting there waiting for us. And certainly I think maybe it's more us than them. I think we need it more than they do. But Gabby, it was hard for me being a working mom because I had in my brain, you know, I had it transmitted, this is how it was going to be. I was going to be a stay-home mom. And then when Gabby was born and Ann died in the same week, it was like my life just got completely turned around exactly the way I didn't want it. You know, and I said, okay, got to listen to the universe. Somebody's talking to me.
And but now when you talk about Gabby, you say that you guys are best friends, and you know that you couldn't have that if she didn't truly respect the things that you've done, and you know, and the way that you chose to.
We are BFF.
Say that again.
Best friends forever.
Best friends forever. You are BFF. You are BFF. And you and I share a frustration with this idea of the phrase "having it all." I don't even understand the phrase, but you know, having had the kind of career that you've had, to a young woman or a young designer or a young woman in any field, how would you talk to her about how to, you know, proceed when they ask you that question about, quote, having it all?
You know, I had that question asked to myself, by myself, because I felt that I did. It looked technically that I had it all. I had the most amazing husband. I had a fantastic daughter. I was successful as a designer, and something was missing in my life. And one day I was on the beach, and I saw this very still rock. And I looked at it and I said, how does this rock stay so still? How do these trees just look so beautiful, and they're so still? And what I found is I didn't have the stillness within myself. And that was a pretty journey that I started to take at that time. I said, how am I going to find my stillness? How am I going to find that security within myself that regardless of anything, I'll be okay, and I'll be able to just sit there as a rock on the beach. And it started my journey, a spiritual journey that I had. And I learned how to meditate. I was always doing yoga at the time, but I hadn't taken it from a point of an inner part of yoga. It was more of a physical aspect of yoga. And I went on a journey looking for what I was missing. And in a lot of respects, I found it through my meditation, through understanding of the world around us. I think as we get older, we realize what's important to us and what's not important to us. And I've had extraordinary experiences through my foundation, through in hospitals, in schools, going to Haiti, you know, seeing what the other world is like, and realizing, you know, what a difference I can make in this world.
Well, in terms of, you know, finding that stillness, I mean, you told, I think it was a reporter for Women's Wear, that, that, you know, in terms of Donna Karan collection and your decision to step away from that, that it was so much harder than you thought it was going to be. You know, I was wondering.
And still do.
And still do. And you know, if you could just talk about, you know, did you then go inside yourself again and try to rely on some of those resources you'd created for yourself, and what has the process been for you?
I think it's habitual. I think when during Fashion Week this year, when it started and I was calm and there was so much chaos around, you know, I go, what do you mean? I'm not supposed to be like, you know, I'm supposed to be kind of crazy right now and I don't have a show to do. So that was kind of a shock to my system. But then the shock happened when I had to go to Paris to show the Urban Zen collection. I didn't do a regular show, but just preparing it and getting it ready. I was just a month off, pardon me. But, you know, when you have a company and all the people you love and care for, and then all of a sudden everybody was sort of growing older and wanting to try something a little bit different and starting to leave you, when Patty decided to step aside, when Jane decided to step aside, I said, you know, this was my baby. And I think it's time. We had talked about it for many, many years, and it was just time. And I kept feeling that I couldn't do Donna Karan, DKNY, and Urban Zen and get everything done that I wanted to get done. So for years, I was telling Kathleen at the end of the press release, say, the end, because I would always write it, to be continued.
Right.
And she says, oh, you're not going to do that. And I go, okay, maybe not this season. But then the season came that I did say, okay, it's the end.
It's the end. For now.
At the moment.
At the moment. At the moment. So you write very intimately about your relationship with Stephen Weiss, your husband, and losing him, the profound effect that it had on you. And, you know, I think, again, talking about the book, your willingness to be vulnerable and really, you know, talk about that, is so striking. And you know, there was one story that you told about how one night he came home with 2 watercolor paintings that he'd made and placed them at the foot of the bed. And one was a sunny yellow plus sign, and the other was a minus sign in black. And he told you, you can look at life either way, Donna. It's your choice. Remember that. So can you tell us a little bit about Stephen and how his way of looking at things, you know, melded with yours?
He was so brilliant. You know, while I was going to look on my journey, and I had, you know, the meditation people there, the yoga people there, and he was just so still. It kind of made me sick. You know, I didn't realize about my husband. Unfortunately, we sometimes realize after the fact than before the fact. Well, during the whole thing, I go, honey, don't you want to do this, or don't you want to do that, or come on, let's do this, or let's do that. And he would look at me, what, are you crazy? But he was really strong within himself, and when he had cancer, I was so proud of him. You know, of course, I would be worried and concerned and carried on, and that's when he did the plus and the minus, and he said, you could either look at the glass half empty or half full. I'm still here right next to you. What is your problem? So I have this problematic sign right in front of my bed just to make sure that I know every day which way I'm looking at things, whether I'm looking at the plus side or the minus side.
So, I mean, he's still with you very much. I mean, you write about that,
well,
too.
I've taken over his studio. One day I walked into the studio and I said, honey, I have the greatest idea. What do you think about this place for Urban Zen? Because I had talked about Urban Zen, and he says to me, and he's in his studio, and I said, well, maybe we could find you another studio, and I could use Urban Zen for a studio, and I see all these things. I see these conferences and talks and all of that. And he goes, right, wrong. But it was a vision that had come so clearly to me of what that I needed to do next, that I just had to go with it. And Stephen, unfortunately, I did want him in his studio. That was his studio and his place, and where he created the most extraordinary pieces of art. And I think one of my dreams right now is to make sure that he gets out there in the world and people see how magnificent his work is.
And you wrote about the fact that, you know, after he died is when you really started that somehow that it was the urban Zen really, you know, came to the fore. So tell us a little bit about urban Zen and, you know, what you're doing with it now, what you hope to do with it, and what your basic, you know, what made you start thinking about it in the first place?
Well, my passion for urban Zen is joining philanthropy and commerce. Conscious consumerism is what I call it. You know, and it's about a community. It's about my dream for urban Zen is that here in New York we create a community of consciousness and change. And I was very, very inspired by the Global Clinton Initiative and Bill Clinton. And I felt there needed to be a place. There are so many issues that are around us in the world today that how do we really handle it? And I feel that it's not about each and every one of us, but it's about the collective consciousness that can really help make the change. So my dream for urban Zen is that I would have a space and a place where we would create conferences, we would create talks to make difference in healthcare, education, and in culture. In healthcare, I found there was the doctor and the nurse, but certainly when Stephen was sick, the person that was missing was the person who was caring for the patient. The nurses were so busy doing the doctor's job, and the doctors are so busy doing the disease job, that who's taking care of the patient? It's sort of like a doula, if everybody knows what a doula is, you know, to help you through giving birth. That we developed an urban Zen integrative therapist, and now at this time we did a clinical test study at Beth Israel Hospital, and we saved $900,000 on one floor of a hospital. That's pretty extraordinary. Wow. We're at UCLA right now, where we're training all the nurses and doctors because the head of the hospital felt that it was so important for the nurses to have this training because the nurses are being burnt up. And that is true. Then we're also at Ohio State, and we're now doing clinical studies on really the money savings of what urban Zen integrative therapists can make a difference in the healthcare system right now. So that's number one. Number two is my passion for education. And it's really looking at the missing link, that to see what is missing in healthcare, what is missing in education. And what's missing in education is we give children reading, writing, and arithmetic, but what we don't give them is the mindfulness. So through meditation, through yoga, bringing that into the school system is something that I'm a very strong advocate of and something that I support. And it's not about my foundation, but it's also other people's foundations that I help to support as well. The other is preservation of culture. Well, that's a really personal one for me, because as a designer, I'm constantly inspired by the cultures around me. And I'm so afraid we're losing that artisanal culture that is so around in the world that we live in today. So when Haiti happened, and this is just an example of what I see, that I went down and I said, well, what are the most talented areas, or are there artists? And they said, well, Croix Bouquet and Jacques Mel. And I said, oh my God, Croix Bouquet, what a great name for a fragrance. What do you grow here? We grow vetiver. That's a wonderful name for a fragrance. You know, it's a wonderful oil. It's one of the top oils in fragrances today is vetiver. So I said, okay, great, we'll make a fragrance in vetiver, give it out to all the designers, and then we can have artists painting all the bottles and raise money for Haiti. Well, that dream hasn't come true yet, but it's on its way, hopefully. We're working on that at the moment. But what I did find is I found fabulous artists everywhere I went, and now I've just opened a school there called The Dot, Design Organizational Training with Parsons School of Design. And when I went there, like this necklace, this is all made in Haiti. These bracelets that I'm wearing, they're all made in Haiti. And usually my bag that I'm carrying, that's made in Haiti. My pocketbook is made in Haiti. And it's kind of fabulous. We've brought graduate students from Parsons School of Design down to Haiti. And I think it's a formula for success for all the developing countries of how to work with the artisans. And it's been a remarkable, remarkable experience.
Well, you know, I mean, I showed you this when we sat down, and now, 30 years later, it is our 30th anniversary this year, we have a feature coming out. I can't show it to you yet because it's, you know, it's going to the printer like right now. But you and our fashion news director, Ann Slowey, went to Haiti over the summer. And I just want to read you a quote, that down there you are known by many as Down and Dirty Donna, because you are so involved and you actually sit in the dirt, literally, with the craftsmen and women who not long ago were handling guns instead of metalwork. And the second quote is that the former Minister of Tourism told us, the Haitians like to say, everybody came after the earthquake, but Donna is the only one who stayed. I mean, first of all, Down and Dirty Donna, that's pretty amazing. But, I mean, the fact that, you know, a lot of people after a disaster, and you were talking about it a little bit with 9/11, you know, that there is, you know, you really are sort of tugged out emotionally, and you want to help and you want to do something, but that you actually stayed, and you go back and you've invested your time, your energy, your spirituality, your love, and you know, it's a genuine commitment for you. These people. So, you know, where does that commitment come from? And you obviously, as you just said, have ambitions for this idea to go more global, but, you know, part of that is just you're staying connected to one particular community.
I'm never going to let go of Haiti, but at the same time, there is the rest of the world. What I'm trying to do in Haiti is find the formula for success. Mm-hmm. So is it vocational education? How can I make a difference? I don't, you know, it's fascinating. I spoke to a college, I think it was about a year ago, and about inspiration. Mm-hmm. And I figured after I spoke, everybody would come up to me and say, well, how do I get a job here? How do I get a job there? You know, in fashion. And every single person came up to me, wanted to get a job in philanthropy.
In philanthropy? Well, that
warms my heart. It was amazing. There are so many issues that we're faced with today. How can we make a difference? Mm-hmm. Well, and I was so impressed. And this was up at Harvard.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well,
it was a beautiful, beautiful, minor little school. But I mean, to think that this is where the kids' heads were at, because they realized that they are the socially responsible people of today, and that's what I think is so amazing.
I mean, that's great news. The question is, I mean, you know, a lot of people graduating now from Harvard and other places can't find paying jobs in anywhere. And, you know, the thing about philanthropy is it requires people that have means and sometimes time to really, you know, be committed to doing that. Do you think, I mean, is there a philanthropy economy that you see growing or changing? I mean, do you see a place for young people to make money?
I hope to see what's happening is commerce and philanthropy are being balanced with one another, that it's not either or. Because I think if we just go into philanthropy and just give, it's sort of like giving the fisherman a fish as opposed to the fishing rod. Mm-hmm. So I think what we do is have to go into a place that is difficult, give the empowerment to the people. And that's what I try to do in Haiti, is empower the people. And I think in getting involved in any sort of philanthropy right now, even with our own Urban Zen Integrative Therapists, we're looking to do it as a business, not necessarily only philanthropic, because it's very difficult to run only on a philanthropic pattern.
So, you know, we're actually, I know that there are people in the audience who would like to ask you some questions, but I have just a couple more. So you close the book with a moving description of what your journey has been and will continue to be, and you say at the end of the day, it's not what you wear or even what you've accomplished that matters, it's who you are, who you love, and how you live. So the question, you know, is, who is Donna Karan? In your own words, I mean, you talked about, am I a business? Am I a brand? Am I a human being? Yes.
I think practically today, you know, it's hard to be a name and a brand. I will say that, because I would open everybody's letters because it all said Donna Karan on it, and I thought it belonged to me. I thought, I got a lot of letters. This is really cool. And people would say, Donna, that's mine. I said, okay. Let's put that aside. I realized that there was a name that belonged to more people than it was me.
Right.
And I had to take a deep look at myself and say, who is Donna Karan?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm a loving, caring, sharing mother, grandmother, philanthropist, artist, who's going on to a journey, my next journey. Mm-hmm. And quite honestly, I don't know what that is right now. I have a lot of ideas, I have a lot of thoughts behind it, but there's nothing defined as, okay, next week you could expect to have this, you know? And it's a very unsettling time, and I have to be respectful of that part, which I keep on saying to myself, you know, using my teachings and using everything else, that it's not as easy as I thought it would be. Because I said, well, I could do this, and I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do that. But at the same time, what do I really want to do? What is the real essence of how do I want to spend the next 10 years?
And you have some ideas, or you
I
have
have
an
a lot of
answer to
ideas.
that,
I just want to make sure that there's enough time and space in the place to be able to live life a little. There's a lot of places I want to travel to that I've not been to. Believe it or not, I've never been to China.
Well,
and it's just like, how could I have not seen China? So I got my friend Calvin saying, come on, let's go to China.
Your friend Calvin. Well, I mean, I did want to ask you, you know, like you've been, you know, you spend a lot of your time giving to other people and helping other people. Who are the people in your life who, I mean, mentors or good friends that, you know, I mean, you talk about other designers in your book, and you and Calvin came up at, you know, around sort of the same time. Who in the design community do you really feel are, you know, good friends and are there for you and can?
Well, I definitely think Calvin is. I think Calvin and I have both gone on a journey together. Everything that I told Calvin that I wanted to do, I said, and Calvin, this is what I want to do. I want to get this house in LA, you know? What is Calvin doing? He's building a house in LA. Now, he gets to do it before I do it. I'm saying, and in the beginning, I said to Calvin, why don't we join, when he was at Calvin Klein, sorry. He was at Calvin Klein, I was at Anne Klein. And I thought, what a great idea that we make one Klein. Why do you need two Kleins? We can have the Kleins. And you can do fall, and I could do spring, and then I could do spring, and you could do fall, or whatever the case may be. And we only have to work 6 months out of the year. This is perfect. He said, I love what I do. I'd never, ever, ever leave it. So it's always a joke that we have between the two of us. So we are very good friends in the industry, and it's wonderful to share, you know, the intimacies of understanding what we both go through, you know, and have gone through as designers, as people in the industry, kind of looking around and seeing other designers and things like that. So I would call him a BFF.
Another BFF.
Another BFF.
So, I mean, I know you won't name names, but, you know, I was talking with somebody today, and, you know, you have a lot of friends who are celebrities, but also, you know, a company at your level, you dress a lot of celebrities, and we always want to know, like, can you just give one crazy story, like the craziest celebrity?
One?
Well, you can give.
You'd be here all night.
We have a few minutes. You can give us as many.
There are so many
like.
crazy stories that I have. I just told one. Okay. Let's see. Barbara's wedding dress, I think, is the funniest.
Barbara's wedding dress.
Barbara called me up and said she's getting married and she needed a wedding dress. And I said, great. And I started to sketch and sketch and sketch. And then she started to sketch and sketch and sketch. So there's not about me, it's about the we. So it's always Barbara and I, or Barbara and Donna. So it usually goes Barbara and Donna.
Barbara and Donna, okay. I remember
so that. I made a dress and she made a dress. And, well, I made her dress. I mean, I'm the stitcher and the sewer and, you know, the pattern maker and all of that kind of stuff, not the designer. I made Barbara's dress that she designed, and I made the dress that I designed, and I brought them both to her. So I designed her 2 wedding dresses, and she chose mine.
As she
So,
should have.
I mean, oh, she looked amazing.
She did.
And then what happened, then my daughter got married, and she says, well, you know, Mommy, I want to get married on the beach just like you and Daddy did. You know, it was like just barefoot on the beach, wearing nothing. And I did her a nothing dress to wear on the beach. She says, well, Mommy, can it be a little bit more like Barbara's?
The one you
I
made
go,
for Barbara? Or?
okay, now I got it.
Well, there's also something in your book where you told President Clinton he wanted something, and you're like, no, that's not what you want.
Well, yeah.
Well, you got to speak truth to power, right?
President Clinton called me up, and he needed a suit for a tuxedo for the inauguration, and I was doing menswear at the time. So I called Martin, and I said, Martin, we have 4 days, and I've got to do a suit for President Clinton. So I asked President Clinton what size he was, and he said he was a 54 long. And I said, I'm sorry, you know, I don't want to dispute you, but you're a 54 extra long. So he said to me, no, I'm 54 long. I said, okay. Called Martin Greenfield back. I said, you've got to do me a favor. You've got to make me an extra long and a long, because he says he's a long, and I think he's an extra long because my husband wears a long. And I knew how much taller he was. So it came to the inauguration. I made him the 54 long and the 54 extra long, and I see him that night at the Arkansas Ball. And the first thing I say to the president, what size suit are you wearing? 54 long. So if anybody thinks that you have it over, forget it. The president is always right.
Well, just one more question, and that is, do you have any feelings about another President Clinton?
Pardon me, I'd love to dress her too.
Well, would you love her to be the president?
To the inauguration, or as long as she looks beautiful, and the rest of the family.
But
I'm looking forward to having the family back in the White House again.
Good. Well, you're not alone in that. I think there are a lot of people here who are. So I know we don't have too much time left, but I know there are some questions, if you have a couple minutes to take some questions from the audience.
Sure.
Okay. There's somebody with a mic and a hand.
Hi. How do you, or how have you continued to innovate for the Donna Karan and DKNY brand? And do you foresee tech being a major game changer in the design and the brand's consumer experiences?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what she said.
Do you want me to repeat it? How do you continue to innovate?
Well, maybe you mean like, when you're designing for like Urban Zen and...
Right. How do I differentiate between the three?
Yeah, and how do you just innovate in general and, push the needle for your collections year after year, because you've been doing such a great job? And is tech going to be, do you think tech is a major game changer for fashion in the coming years?
Tech.
Did you get it? I think the question was, maybe it's a hearing,
forgive me, I don't want to translate your question for you, but I think, the question is just in terms of technical innovation, just, like you're a creative person, and as you said, every time you would do something, you say, we're not done, and, we have one more collection, or you have another idea, so you you wrote your book. In terms of Urban Zen, how do you keep yourself sort of moving creatively forward?
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that?
Yes.
We got it?
Yes.
I think a designer, always a designer, you're constantly moving forward. You're constantly looking what you don't have, what you want, what somebody else needs. It was very interesting, and without sort of going through a big story about, well, I don't know how to do this properly, but I'm going to try. I just came back from a travel, and I saw what was in the stores, and I said, there seems to be this missing element at retail right now. I think there's a lot of people talking to a lot of young people, and I don't mean young, but young in spirit and, and great, but who's talking to the woman today? And I think there's a really discussion about who's designing for women today as opposed to who's designing for young girls today. I mean, that's an inspiration.
I have to say that, Alice Gonzalez, Elle's creative director, we talked about this the whole season, which is, when do you see a woman on the runway? It's very rare. You see a lot of girls. And why do you think that's why did fashion just decide that we're just going to dress girls?
We're all 18 again?
Yeah. Or we all want to be 18 again?
I'm not sure. I'm a little, I question that myself, so I leave that up to you.
Okay.
I leave it up to what's going on right now, because I really don't understand. I think a lot of the clothes are being geared to a much younger generation, or at least being designed. I don't know, maybe because they're younger designers?
It's interesting. I mean, it's definitely
Possibly.
something. I mean, we need to dress. We dress women, and we want to help.
And you don't
women,
see
and
that on the runway. Because I think, you know, the runway is positioned for what's new, what's new, what's new, what's new, and it's so, our ADD kicks in really quickly, so I want to see it like that, like that, like that. And it has to be so sharp, and because we do get bored.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
what they are
gets
trying to
bored,
show,
yeah.
what's new, what's new, what's new.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes maybe what's new is not right.
Or just too short. Any other questions?
You keep talking a lot about things that have transitioned in your life, and it seems like some of it's happenstance and some of it's intentional. How do you know when to sort of pivot or change or adapt?
When to take the change?
Yeah.
I don't like change. I figured as a designer, it's very funny. I'm changing constantly. The hemlines go up, the hemlines go down, the clothes go in, the clothes go out. There's a lot of change in fashion, so I try to keep my life somewhat in system. And I know that, and I knew when I could take a vacation, when I couldn't take a vacation. So I like to have a rhythm because of the fact that I'm constantly thinking of change. Does that make sense to you? So it's a balance between how much you can change and how something that you need concrete and kind of still. But one thing guaranteed, it all changes.
Yeah.
That's the guarantee in life. Nothing stays the same.
That's true. So I think we have time for just like one more. Ms. Chloe.
And I have to just say, in terms of conceptual fashion on the runway, the cold shoulder was all over the runway in Europe. So I don't know whether it was a tribute intended, but we saw it everywhere. So you're constantly with us. I usually meet designers when they are in their design mind and protected by barriers of PR people, and they have a message that they want to get across. And I had the opportunity to spend 3 days with you in quite intimate, close quarters. We went everywhere together, and I got to know you, the person, which I won't say completely changed my mind about you, but it completely changed my mind about designers as people. And I just, a takeaway that I really want to keep with me from that trip is how do people, does one, on a day-to-day basis, because you seem to know how to do this, how do you remind yourself in small ways to stay centered, and I know meditation is a part of it, but there must be something else too that you've come to learn over the years, so that when we're not with our kids or we're not with our friends and time is passing by and you feel it flying away from you, how do you try to stay in that moment, I guess, where you're connected to the things that are most important to you and that will make the world a better place ultimately?
I think as a designer, I think I have a luxury that from being inborn with creation, creation is something that is my inspiration. So it's what I haven't done that drives me to what I want to do, as opposed to sort of doing the same thing over and over again. And that light, that thing that takes me to that place, is thinking about, I know I want to go to Cuba. Like, I'm really obsessed right now. There are 3 places that I want to go: Cuba, China, and Colombia. And they're all in 3 very different places. And I'm trying to figure out, what?
They all start with C.
They all start with C. Connect, collaborate, communicate, change. So how do I figure out, okay, how do I do that? But so I keep putting something in front of me that is a desire, at the same time realizing that you might not be able to have that desire right now. You might have to be able to just kind of wait it out and see when it's ready and see when the time is right. It's not easy. I tell you, the more you learn, I think the more difficult it becomes.
Well, thank you for that. And, you know, Donna, I just want to say again, we are so thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much for the time that you've taken. And I just want to say, yay, it's really, really great. So thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor.